Hey guys, so today I wanted to kind of discuss a very infamous and prevalent thing within the Myers-Briggs community, and that's the idea of mistyping um, for the different personality types, and also why I personally don't rely on, and I think it's wise not to rely on any of the tests, even the MBTI certified test, unless you are talking to a professional and they're walking you through it. But even at that, um, I personally think that especially the online free test can be very misleading. And the reason being is, so a lot of people get into MBTI or Myers-Briggs the same way that I kind of, just switching positions. They get into MBTI the same way that I was introduced to it, and that was through a friend. I had a friend, and he's like, "Oh, you should take this test. It's really cool. I wanted to see what your results are." So I took the test, and I took it free online, and I got a certain result. And for people that may have watched some of my videos, you may know this, but I have almost always tested as an ENFJ, and I am not an ENFJ. I think that's pretty clear, especially if you know, if you recognize tone of voice and just in general. I think a lot of people would not think that I'm an extrovert if they knew me like high school and before. So that's not really a surprise to many people. But yes, I did test as an ENFJ. And a lot of people mistype, and that's so common. Especially a lot of people mistype as INFJ. There's a lot of people, even on YouTube, that aren't actually INFJ. And I don't know why people, well, I guess I do get it, but I don't really understand why people want to be INFJ. Because I wouldn't really wish that upon anybody. I think I mistyped as an ENFJ for so long because I would, and maybe some people think this is weird, but I would prefer to be an extrovert. I have always kind of, that's my idealized version of who I want to be. And so, but that's just like not the way that personalities work. Certainly you can act like that, but at the end of the day, you have your own set of cognitive functions, and yes, you can use them depending on how developed you are as whatever type you are. You're able to maybe come across as a certain type, but when it comes down to it, because it's not a behavioral based thing, who you corely are is within the cognitive functions that you have. And that goes into the tests and why they can be very flawed, is just like how I was saying, I so desperately wanted to be extroverted that, and I think I am a pretty outgoing introvert. INFJs are very, they're the most extroverted introverts. So when I would take the test, it said how do you like people, and it would have a scale, or how do you like to be around people, or is it easy for you to introduce yourself? And for me, it's pretty easy. It hasn't always been that way, but I was pretty extreme on either side, so that's why that result came out. And also, so basically people will take the test, and especially if you know the test, if you know the different cognitive functions or the different like the T or the F or the N or the S, you kind of already know what the questions are asking. Like, I can take any of the tests and I could probably come out with all the different personality types. If I was to take it just like, oh, this time I'm going to try to get ESFJ, or this time I'm going to get ISTP. Like, I could probably take those tests and almost always get which type I want to be. And that's just problematic in general, because people, when they take the test, they're either not in the right frame of mind, or they're trying to be their most idealized vision of themselves, or there's just all different kinds of factors. They might be distracted. Just so many things play a role in why taking the test can be inaccurate. So that being said, the best way to determine your type is by studying the cognitive functions. And yes, even though I have said that I do not rely on the tests, when I'm trying to figure out somebody's type, I can figure it out by just being with them, but a lot of times it takes me a while because I don't want to just, I'm pretty confident in figuring out what someone is just by their expressions and their tone of voice and just different things like that, their micro expressions. But that being said, a lot of times I like to see those people in different situations and see how they react and how basically just kind of pinpoint where their cognitive functions are at. But as I was saying, I do have people take the test as a way of kind of seeing where they may think they fall, just as a starting point. But a lot of times, like I said, people do mistype, but sometimes people are pretty close to what their type may be, or at least if you study socionics, which I definitely want to go into socionics on this channel because it's a lot more deep dive in my opinion than the kind of Myers-Briggs system, or at least what you see on a lot of forums or sites. Basically, socionics is Myers-Briggs on steroids, and they have 4 different quadras: the alpha, the beta, the gamma, and the delta quadra. And within those quadras, there are 4 different personality types, and those 4 different personality types share the same cognitive functions but in a different order. So like for me, an ENFJ, an ISTP, and I'm talking in the Myers-Briggs system, not in the socionics system, because it's a little flipped. So if you're new to Myers-Briggs, I wouldn't recommend maybe going into socionics right away, just because it can be confusing, the difference. But anyways, so ENFJ, ISTP, ESTP, and INFJ all have the same cognitive functions but in a different order. So really, when I took the test, it wasn't that far off. In socionics terms, ENFJ and INFJ, or EIE and IEI, are mirrors, which means they have a lot of things in common, but they just, at some point, because their creative functions are in different orders, and their primary functions are in a different order, they don't completely see eye to eye on something, even though they do get along very well, and those personalities are pretty compatible, but not the most compatible. So that being said, that went a little bit, I apologize for being a little rambly on that subject, but there are just so many things that I could say about this subject, about how it's so easy to mistype, and how important it is to study the cognitive functions. Going back to the fact that people, for some reason, I don't know actually if I said it in this video, I think I did, but if I haven't, I apologize. I've shot this a few times, but for some reason people really want to be INFJ. I don't get it. I think it's like, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, but there are a lot of people that mistype, and at least what I found, a lot of people mistype as INFJ and INTJ, because I guess those types are, I guess people idealistically want to be those types for some reason. And so, at least for me on INFJ forums, first of all, I do not trust forums, and this is another place to be very wary of. Like, not every single forum is bad, and not every single person that posts doesn't know what they're talking, or isn't like not everybody's misleading, but for the most part, what you read online, and this goes for anything, you need to do your own research. You need to really look into it, because people will say whatever they want. And if you know anything about Myers-Briggs, there's a lot of ENTPs out there, true ENTPs, and I love ENTPs, but there's so many ENTP trolls that will just pretend to be certain types, and they'll just be like me, and they'll just kind of reap chaos on unknowing victims that are just getting into MBTI or haven't done the cognitive research. So, that being said, forums on Facebook also have a lot of interesting people on there that mistype as INFJ. I can speak from that experience. Sorry, there's so much cat hair. Lumi's right here. I've been invited or joined INFJ forums thinking, oh yeah, finally I'll be able to talk to some other INFJs. I do have INFJs in my life, but just kind of having that camaraderie of, discussing things with people from other parts of the world. But it's, once you get onto most of those forums, it's very clear that those people are not INFJ, because they will just be like they're asking for constant advice and confirmation about different things, and just kind of, I don't know what types they are, but whatever types they are, they aren't INFJ, and they just kind of will, they probably think they're INFJ, but it's very frustrating for people, INFJs like myself, that are truly trying to have maybe deeper discussions, and then there's people that are just kind of on there doing whatever, and in a lot of ways it is an innocent thing. Like, I don't think they mean to be that certain way, but they're just kind of spewing out things that are just confusing people, and people who maybe truly want to interact with a certain personality type aren't able to, because there are these people that are claiming to be a type that they aren't. So that being said, I am not a part of most INFJ groups or even MBTI groups, because it gets too much for me, and I get bored of it after just a couple of days, because they'll bombard with posts. But yeah, sorry this was ranty and rambly. If you are new to MBTI, or if you have been doing this journey for a while, or even whatever amount of time you've been on this journey, please, if you haven't already and you think you may know what your type is, but you're not 100% sure, or even if you feel like you are 100% sure, please do the cognitive research. Sometimes I think a lot of people want their type instantly, and that's why the online tests are deceiving. They want to know, oh, this is what my type is, or please tell me what my type is, and that's maybe not always going to happen right away if you don't have someone in your life that is able to really sit down with you and do the cognitive assessments. If you're just on your own and you're just wanting that validation of what type you are, there's a really high likelihood that it will be inaccurate. So take some time, research your type. If you want to know, if you want to have kind of more quick videos, and when I say quick videos, they aren't necessarily quick, but they're informative and you don't necessarily have to do all the reading and stuff, I definitely suggest reading reputable sites. But I would suggest looking at people's YouTube pages like Michael Pierce. I think Michael Pierce is an amazing YouTuber. He is phenomenal. He has incredible videos. I've been subscribed to him basically from his very beginnings, but he has some of the best, if not the best, type descriptions of every single type. And he has several videos, and he even has a video about socionics if you want to kind of have that and the just different relationships and socionics that the types have, if you want to maybe start that journey. And eventually I will have videos about socionics because, again, I find socionics to be even more interesting because I really like the idea of how the types interact with one another. But yeah, hopefully you're able to get some information out of this video, and I hope that through this video I know that other YouTubers or just places online have been trying to raise awareness against mistyping, but hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you in my next video. Say bye, Florist.